The notification lit up my phone at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I knew, before I even looked, that my life was about to detonate. I was lying in bed next to Vanessa, my wife of 8 years, listening to her breathe in that soft, rhythmic way she did when she was deeply asleep. We'd been together since college, built a life in Portland that looked perfect from the outside. A renovated craftsman in Laurelhurst, 2 kids, Emma, 6, and Tyler, 4, and careers we'd worked our tails off for. I was a senior project manager at an engineering firm. She was a marketing director at a tech startup downtown. The message was from Kyle Patterson, my buddy from grad school who now lived in Seattle. We hadn't talked in maybe 3 months. "Dude, I'm really sorry to send this. Saw V at the Archer Hotel bar tonight with some guy. Looked not professional. Thought you should know." My stomach dropped like I'd stepped into an empty elevator shaft. Attached was a photo, grainy but clear enough. Vanessa, wearing the black dress I'd complimented her on when she left for her client dinner 6 hours ago, sitting in a booth with a man I didn't recognize. Their heads were close together. Too close. His hand was on her thigh. I sat up slowly, careful not to wake her. My hands were shaking as I zoomed in on the image. The man was younger than me, maybe early 30s, with styled dark hair and the kind of jawline that belonged in cologne ads. He wore an expensive-looking suit, and the way Vanessa was looking at him, laughing at something he'd said, made my chest physically hurt. That wasn't a client dinner look. That was the look she used to give me when we first started dating, back when everything was new and electric. I checked the timestamp. Kyle had sent it 40 minutes ago. I texted back with trembling fingers. "Are they still there?" 3 dots appeared immediately. "Left together about 20 minutes ago. Heading to the elevators when I took off. Man, I'm really sorry." The Archer Hotel. I knew it well. A boutique place downtown that charged $300 a night for rooms. My mind raced through a dozen explanations, each one more desperate than the last. Maybe it was a client. Maybe the photo made it look worse than it was. Maybe Kyle had misread the situation. But I knew. Deep in my gut, where truth lives before your brain catches up, I knew. I looked at Vanessa sleeping peacefully beside me, her auburn hair spread across the pillow, and felt something crack inside my chest. This was the woman I'd proposed to on Cannon Beach, the mother of my children, the person I'd trusted with literally everything. I got out of bed and went downstairs to my office, closing the door quietly. For the next hour, I sat in the dark, staring at that photo, trying to make sense of it. Part of me wanted to storm back upstairs and confront her immediately. Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never seen it. Instead, I did what my engineer brain always did when faced with a problem. I started gathering data. I opened our cellular account online. We were on a family plan under my name. Vanessa's call logs loaded slowly, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Over the past 6 weeks, there were dozens of calls to one number, sometimes lasting 30 or 40 minutes. Late-night texts. Calls during her lunch breaks. Calls at times when I knew she'd told me she was in meetings. I ran the number through a reverse lookup service. It came back to someone named Garrett Walsh, age 33, employed at Vertex Solutions, the same tech company where Vanessa worked. My wife was having an affair with a coworker. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I actually bent forward in my chair, struggling to breathe. How long had this been going on? 6 weeks based on the phone records, but maybe longer if they'd been careful before that. How many lies had she told me? How many times had she kissed me goodbye, told me she loved me, then gone to be with him? I thought about Emma and Tyler sleeping upstairs in their rooms, completely unaware that their world was about to shatter. Emma had just lost her first tooth last week, so proud of herself. Tyler had finally mastered riding his bike without training wheels. They worshipped their mother. The rage came then, hot and sharp. Not the explosive kind, the cold, calculating kind that settles into your bones and changes you at a molecular level. I'd given Vanessa everything. I'd supported her career moves, taken on more childcare when she needed to travel for work, celebrated her victories, and held her through her failures. And this was what I got in return? I spent the rest of the night documenting everything. I took screenshots of the call logs, saved the photo Kyle had sent, started a detailed timeline in a password-protected document. By the time the sky started lightening outside my office window, I had a plan forming. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not until I knew the full scope of what I was dealing with. Not until I had every piece of evidence locked down tight. At 6:15 a.m., I heard Vanessa's alarm go off upstairs. The shower started running. I listened to the familiar sounds of her morning routine, sounds I'd heard thousands of times before, and felt like I was hearing them for the first time, or maybe the last time. When she came downstairs 20 minutes later, already dressed for work in gray slacks and a silk blouse, I was making coffee like it was any other morning. The morning routine played out like theater. I made Emma's lunch: turkey sandwich, apple slices, the granola bar she'd pick out all the chocolate chips from. Tyler wanted the dinosaur-shaped nuggets I'd baked the night before while Vanessa showered. While she was upstairs, I forwarded every suspicious text thread to my personal email, then cleared the sent folder on her phone. She came down at 7:15, hair still damp, wearing the gray blazer I'd bought her for Christmas. The scent of her perfume, something floral and expensive, filled the kitchen. "You're up early," she said, kissing my cheek. Her lips were cool. "Couldn't sleep." "True enough." "Everything okay?" I met her eyes. Green, flecked with gold. I'd written a poem about those eyes in grad school before we were married. Terrible poetry, but she'd kept it in a box somewhere. Just work stuff. The Brennan Project timeline's getting tight. She nodded, already checking her phone. Her thumb moved across the screen in familiar patterns. I wondered if she was texting him, if they were planning their next hotel visit, if she felt anything at all standing in our kitchen, lying to my face. "I might be late tonight," she said. "Marketing review with the executive team." "What time?" 7, maybe 8. She grabbed her coffee mug, the one Emma had painted at Color Me Mine, lopsided hearts around the rim. "I'll text you." "Sure." After she left, I got the kids ready for school. Emma chattered about the field trip to the Science Museum. Tyler insisted on wearing his Spider-Man shirt for the third day straight. Normal morning chaos that felt like it was happening to someone else. I dropped them at Laurelhurst Elementary at 8:20, watched them disappear through the blue doors, then sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could trust myself to drive. The Vertex Solutions office occupied the 7th floor of a glass tower in the Pearl District. I'd been there twice before, once for their holiday party, once to pick Vanessa up when her car was in the shop. Modern industrial aesthetic, exposed ductwork, motivational phrases on the walls in sans serif fonts. I parked across the street at 9:45 a.m. and waited. Garrett Walsh emerged at 10:17. Exactly when Vanessa's calendar showed his morning break. I'd checked it while she showered. She kept her work schedule synced to our shared family account. Probably forgot I had access. He looked exactly like Kyle's description. Tall, dark hair styled with product, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. He walked to the Starbucks on the corner, ordered something complicated, stood scrolling his phone while he waited. I followed him inside. The barista called out his order, venti americano, extra shot, and I stepped up beside him at the pickup counter. Garrett Walsh? He turned, confused. Yeah? My name's David Chen. The lie came easily. I'd practiced it. I'm with Cascade Insurance. We're investigating a claim involving one of your clients. Vanessa mentioned you might be able to help clarify some timeline questions. His expression shifted. Not guilty, exactly. Careful. Vanessa Reeves? I added. Right, yeah, we work together. He grabbed his coffee. What kind of timeline? Just some documentation issues with a client meeting she listed. Last Thursday evening. I pulled out my phone, pretended to check notes. Around 6 p.m.? Thursday was the night Kyle saw them. The night she'd claimed to be at a client dinner. Garrett's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I'd have to check my calendar. We have a lot of client meetings. Of course. Maybe you could email me when you get a chance? I handed him a business card I'd printed that morning. Fake name, fake company, real phone number. A burner I'd bought at Target at 6 a.m. He took the card, studied it. Sure, I'll look into it. Appreciate it, I smiled. Vanessa speaks highly of you. Says you're really good at what you do. Something flickered in his eyes. She's great to work with. I left him standing there, walked back to my car, and waited another hour. He didn't go back inside. Instead, he made a phone call that lasted 6 minutes, pacing in front of the building. Then another call, shorter. He looked agitated. My burner phone rang at 11:43. Mr. Robinson? Garrett's voice was tight. I checked my records. I wasn't at any client meeting with Vanessa last Thursday. No? No. And I called Cascade Insurance. They've never heard of you. I let the silence stretch. Who the hell are you? He asked. I'm her husband. The line went quiet except for street noise in the background. A bus hissing past. Someone shouting about parking. Listen, he said finally. I don't want any trouble. Little late for that? It's not. Look, it's complicated. I bet it is. My hand was shaking. I pressed it against my thigh. How long? What? How long have you been sleeping with my wife? He exhaled. 3 months. Maybe 4. Longer than the phone records showed. They'd been careful at first, probably used different phones or apps I hadn't found yet. Does she love you? I don't know why I asked. The question just came out. I don't know, man. We don't really talk about that stuff. What do you talk about? Jesus Christ! He sounded miserable. I didn't know she was married at first, okay? She doesn't wear a ring at work. True. She'd stopped wearing it 6 months ago. Said it got in the way when she typed. I'd thought nothing of it. When did you find out? Maybe 6 weeks ago? I saw photos on her desk. Your kids. And you kept going. She said you were separated, that you were just staying together until you figured out custody. The lie was so smooth, so complete. I wondered how many times she'd told it, whether she believed it herself. We're not separated, I said. We're married. We have dinner together every night. We just renovated our bathroom. Last weekend we took the kids to the pumpkin patch. Shit. He sounded genuine. I'm sorry, I really didn't. Save it. I hung up. At 2:30 p.m. my burner rang again. Different number. We need to talk. Vanessa's voice was ice. Do we? Garrett just told me what you did. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking my wife's been lying to me for 4 months. So you ambush my coworker? You could cost me my job. The audacity was almost impressive. She was angry at me. Your job? I kept my voice level. That's what you're worried about. David. So Garrett had told her my real name. Good. Come home, I said. We'll talk there. I'm working. Come home, Vanessa. Or I'm calling your boss and telling him his marketing director has been using company time to conduct an affair with a subordinate. I'm sure HR would love to discuss the liability implications. She sucked in a breath. You wouldn't. Try me. Fine, I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up. I sat in my car, watching office workers stream in and out of the building for lunch. Normal people living normal lives, probably not destroying their families. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma's teacher about the permission slip I'd forgotten to sign. Another buzz, a reminder about Tyler's dentist appointment next week. The mundane machinery of life, grinding forward regardless. I drove home and waited. She arrived at 3:05, parked behind my car in the driveway. I watched from the living room window as she sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. Then she got out, straightened her blazer, and walked to the door like she was heading into a performance review. I'd already laid everything out on the dining room table, printed call logs, screenshots of texts, the photo Kyle sent, a timeline I'd constructed showing every late night, every client dinner, every lie I could document. She stopped in the doorway, staring at the evidence. How long have you known? She asked. Does it matter? I need to know if you've been planning this. If you've been documenting? Yeah, I have. I gestured at the table. 4 months, Vanessa. You looked me in the eye every single day and lied. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. She moved to the table, picked up one of the printouts. Her hand trembled slightly. I never meant for this to happen. Nobody ever does. The front door opened at 8:47 p.m. I'd been sitting in the living room for 6 minutes, the printed evidence arranged on the coffee table like exhibits in a courtroom. Hotel receipts, bank statements showing cash withdrawals, screenshots of text messages, the photo from Kyle, printed in color on our home printer. Vanessa came in fast, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She still wore her work clothes, navy blazer, cream blouse, but her face was flushed, her hair slightly disheveled. She'd probably driven 20 miles over the speed limit. Where are the kids? Her eyes darted toward the stairs. Emma's at soccer practice until 9. Tyler's at my mom's. They're spending the night there. You planned this. Not a question, an accusation. Sit down. Don't tell me what to... Sit. Down. Something in my voice made her stop. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment she understood this wasn't going to be a fight she could win with tears or anger. Her gaze dropped to the coffee table, scanning the documents. She sat on the chair across from me. Not the couch where we usually sat together. The distance felt deliberate. How long? I asked. It's not what you think. I know exactly what it is. I talked to him today. Garrett was very forthcoming once he thought I was a PI documenting everything for divorce proceedings. I paused. How long, Vanessa? She closed her eyes. 7 months. 7. Not 3 or 4. 7 months while I'd been working late on the Hernandez account. 7 months while we'd taken the kids to the coast for Emma's birthday. 7 months of her lying in our bed, kissing me goodbye, asking about my day. He thinks we're separated, I said. That's what you told him. I was going to tell you. I just, I didn't know how. You didn't know how to tell me you wanted a divorce, but you knew how to sleep with someone else for 7 months? Her hands twisted in her lap. It wasn't supposed to happen. We were working late on the Vertex rebrand, and we just connected. He listened to me. He made me feel… Don't. The word came out sharp. Don't you dare tell me he made you feel something I didn't. You didn't give me a chance. You just decided I wasn't enough and went looking elsewhere. That's not fair. Fair? I almost laughed. You want to talk about fair? I've been faithful to you for 8 years. I've supported your career, taken care of our kids, worked my tail off to give us this life. And you repay me by what? By being human? By having needs you weren't meeting? The words hit like a physical blow. I stood up, needing distance before I said something I'd regret. Through the window, I could see the Johnsons' house across the street, their living room lit up, probably watching TV together like a normal family. What needs? I turned back to her. Tell me. What did I fail to do? Because I've been going through our life together in my head, and I can't figure out where I went so wrong that you had to betray everything we built. You're never here, she said quietly. Even when you're home, you're thinking about work, about timelines and budgets and projects. When's the last time you asked me about my day and actually listened? When's the last time you looked at me the way you used to? I looked at you that way this morning. I told you that you looked beautiful before you left for work. You smiled and kissed me and said you'd be home by 6 for dinner. Then you texted at 4 saying you had a client meeting. I picked up one of the printed texts. Except you didn't have a client meeting. You had Garrett at the Heathman Hotel, room 412. She flinched. So don't tell me I don't look at you or listen to you. I've been present. I've been here. You're the one who checked out. Silence filled the room. Outside, I heard a car door slam. Someone coming home from work to their intact life. What do you want? Vanessa finally asked. I want to know if there's anything real left. If the woman I married is still in there somewhere, or if she's been replaced by someone I don't know. I'm still me. No, the woman I married wouldn't do this. She wouldn't lie to my face every day. She wouldn't risk our children's stability for… What? Excitement? Validation? You don't understand? Then make me understand. Because right now, all I see is someone who destroyed our family because she was bored. Vanessa stood abruptly. I'm not bored. I'm lonely. I've been lonely for 2 years and you never noticed because you were too busy optimizing project workflows and managing teams. I needed you, and you weren't there. So you found someone who was. Yes. The admission hung between us. Yes, I did. And I know that makes me a terrible person. I know I should have talked to you first, should have tried counseling or something. But I didn't. I made a choice and I can't take it back. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. Does he know you're married? I mean, really no, not the separation story. He knows. And he's fine with it? He wants me to leave you. He's been pushing me to file for divorce. That stung more than it should have. Some stranger wanted my wife to leave me, had been actively encouraging it, had probably been whispering in her ear after each encounter, planting seeds of discontent. Do you love him? She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. I don't know, she finally said. I think I might. I thought I'd prepared myself for this conversation, but hearing those words, I think I might, broke something fundamental. The woman I'd built a life with, who I'd promised forever to, who'd given me 2 beautiful children, Thought she might love someone else. I need you to leave, I said quietly. What? Tonight. Pack a bag and go. Stay with him, stay with a friend, I don't care. But you can't be here right now. The kids will be told that mommy had to go on a work trip. We'll figure out the rest later, but right now, I need you gone. You can't keep me from my children. I'm not. I'm asking you to give me one night to process this without having to see you. One night, Vanessa. Then we'll talk about next steps. She stared at me, and I saw tears forming. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to pull her close and pretend none of this had happened. But that part was getting smaller, drowned out by the cold reality of what she'd done. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know. But sorry doesn't fix this. She went upstairs. I heard drawers opening, the closet door sliding, the sounds of her packing. 15 minutes later, she came down with an overnight bag. She stopped at the door. I do love you, she said. I know you don't believe me right now, but I do. I never stopped. You just loved him more. She didn't deny it. The door closed behind her, and I was alone in our house, surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal and the wreckage of our marriage. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Boys are having a great time. Tyler wants to know if he can have pancakes for breakfast. I typed back, sure, thanks for taking them. Then I sat in the silence looking at the photos on the mantle. Our wedding day, Emma's birth, Tyler's first birthday, a family vacation to Cannon Beach. All those moments, all those memories, and I couldn't tell anymore which ones were real and which ones were her acting out a role while thinking about someone else. The house felt different now, emptier. Like she'd taken something essential with her when she left, some vital piece that made it a home instead of just a building. I gathered up the evidence from the coffee table and took it to my office. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer. Tomorrow, I'd start figuring out custody arrangements and division of assets. Tomorrow, I'd begin the process of dismantling the life we'd built together. But tonight, I just sat in the dark and let myself feel the full weight of what I'd lost. The notification sound from Vanessa's laptop pulled me from a restless half-sleep on the couch. 4:30 in the morning, gray light just beginning to seep through the windows. I'd been lying there since she left, staring at the ceiling, my mind running through the same loop of images and conversations. Her laptop sat open on the coffee table where she'd left it charging. She always forgot to log out of everything. I shouldn't have looked. I knew that even as I reached for it. The notification was from a cloud storage service, automatic backup complete. I clicked through to her account without thinking, muscle memory from the hundreds of times I'd grabbed her laptop to check our shared calendar or look up a recipe. The folder structure was familiar at first. Work presentations, family photos, tax documents. Then I saw it, a folder labeled LL Project Files with a modified date from 2 days ago. Vanessa didn't work on anything called LL Project. I knew her accounts, her workload. We'd just gone over her Q4 deliverables 3 weeks ago when she was stressed about deadlines. I opened it. The first document was a scanned driver's license. Massachusetts. A woman named Patricia Brennan, age 47 from Worcester. Brown hair, tired smile in the photo. Organ donor. Below that, a scanned Social Security card with the same name. A handwritten note on lined paper, shaky script. I can't do this anymore, I'm sorry. The pain is too much. My stomach went cold. I scrolled down. More licenses, more Social Security cards, more notes. 12 files total, each one a different person, different states, different ages, all with the same kinds of brief, desperate messages. Tell my sister I love her. It's better this way. I'm tired of fighting. At the bottom of the folder, a spreadsheet. Names in one column, dates in another, dollar amounts in a third. The amounts ranged from $3,400 to $47,000. The dates spanned the last 14 months. Next to Patricia Brennan's name, $12,300. Date, March 17th. Just 4 months ago. I opened another folder. Account access. Inside were screenshots of bank logins, credit card statements, loan documents, all in different names, none of them Vanessa's. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely control the trackpad. I went back to the main directory and found another folder. Crisis Center logs. Inside were Word documents organized by month. I opened the most recent one. It was a record of calls, times, durations, caller information. But unlike any crisis hotline log I'd ever seen, these had detailed notes about the caller's financial situations, their family connections, their isolation levels. Caller 847, Michael, 52, divorced, no children, mentioned $40K in savings, no close family ties, high-risk candidate. Caller 921, Jennifer, 34, single, estranged from parents. Recently inherited $25K, very responsive to validation approach. There were coded notations next to some entries. Transferred to LL appeared 17 times across the past year's logs. I sat back, the laptop screen blurring in front of me. Vanessa volunteered at the Crisis Prevention Center. She'd been doing it for 2 years, every Tuesday and Thursday evening. She'd come home and tell me about her shifts, about how rewarding it was to help people in their darkest moments. She'd cried once, about a month ago, telling me about a caller she'd connected with. "I just hope I said the right things," she'd said. "I hope she's okay." I thought about the affair timeline. 7 months with Garrett. But this folder structure went back 14 months. I opened her email, searched for Garrett's name, found a thread from 11 months ago, before the affair supposedly started. The subject line, LL Partnership Proposal. Vanessa. Attached is the proof of concept we discussed. 3 successful implementations, total yield $87K. Your access to the Crisis Center gives us a sustainable pipeline. My background in identity services provides the infrastructure. 50-50 split on all proceeds. This could be significant if we scale properly. G. Her response. The risk assessment concerns me, but the numbers are compelling. We'd need to be extremely selective about candidates, only those with minimal family connections and clear intent. I can identify them during initial screening. How quickly can you move on documents once I provide them? I read through the entire thread. Watched them refine their system. Watched my wife describe how she'd build trust with suicidal callers, how she'd assess their viability as targets, how she'd encourage the ones who met their criteria. Not everyone. Just the ones who were truly alone. The ones who had something to take. The ones whose deaths wouldn't raise questions. There was a procedure. She'd spend weeks building rapport with selected callers. She'd validate their pain, their reasons, their right to make their own choices. She'd gently suggest that maybe peace was okay, that maybe they'd suffered enough, that sometimes the bravest thing was letting go. When they were ready, when she'd determined they were isolated enough and committed enough, she'd transfer them to LL, to Garrett. He'd pose as a different counselor, a specialist. He'd get the information he needed, social security numbers, account details, security questions, all under the guise of completing their profile for better support. Then they'd wait. Some callers never followed through. Those were marked inactive in the spreadsheet. But 12 had. 12 people in 14 months had ended their lives, and Garrett had been ready with their personal information. He'd file fraudulent death certificates in different jurisdictions, access their accounts, liquidate what he could before families or authorities caught on. The amounts weren't huge. They were careful to take only what wouldn't trigger immediate investigation. A few thousand here, 10 or 20,000 there. Enough to fly under the radar while the estates were being settled. By the time anyone noticed discrepancies, the money had been laundered through business accounts Garrett controlled. I found photos. Garrett and Vanessa at a restaurant I didn't recognize, expensive wine on the table. Vanessa wearing a necklace I'd never seen, diamond pendant that must have cost thousands. Garrett's hand on her thigh. The timestamp. 6 months ago. Another photo. Them on a beach somewhere tropical. Vanessa in a bikini, laughing. I'd thought she was at a work conference in San Francisco that weekend. She'd brought home a branded tote bag and complained about boring panels. The trip had been funded by a woman named Carol Stevenson, age 59, from Phoenix. Former teacher. Widowed. No children. She'd called the crisis line in February, been transferred to LL in March, and died in April. Her accounts had yielded $31,000. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. When I came back, I forced myself to keep looking. I needed to understand the full scope. I found recordings. Vanessa had saved audio files from some of her crisis line calls, a violation of every protocol, but she'd done it anyway. Insurance, maybe, or trophies. I clicked on one labeled Patricia B., final call. Vanessa's voice came through the speakers, warm and compassionate. Patricia, I'm so glad you called back. How are you feeling today? A woman's voice, thick with tears. Not good? I don't think I can do this anymore. I know it's hard. And you've been so strong for so long. A pause. Patricia, can I tell you something? Sometimes being strong means knowing when to stop fighting. It means recognizing when you've done enough. I don't want to be a burden anymore. You're not a burden. You've never been a burden. But I understand that feeling. And if you've reached a point where the pain is too much, where you've tried everything and nothing helps, that's valid. Your feelings are valid. The conversation continued for 40 minutes. Vanessa never explicitly told Patricia to kill herself. She was too smart for that. But every response reinforced Patricia's despair, validated her hopelessness, gently suggested that maybe ending her suffering was a reasonable choice. You've thought this through carefully, haven't you? You've made a rational decision based on your circumstances. That takes courage. I listened to 3 more recordings. The pattern was identical. Build trust. Validate pain. Normalize suicide as a reasonable option. Never push, just guide. The sun was fully up now. I could hear birds outside, the neighbor's dog barking. Normal morning sounds in a world that had just revealed itself to be something completely different than what I'd thought. My wife wasn't just having an affair. My wife was a murderer. The cursor blinked on my laptop screen as I stared at the folder labeled Archive 14. I'd been sitting in my office for the past 20 minutes, frozen between horror and necessity, trying to decide what to do with what I'd found. My phone showed 5:12 a.m. Vanessa would be up in less than 2 hours. Emma and Tyler would stumble out of their rooms around 7:30, asking for pancakes or cereal, completely unaware their mother was a monster. I needed to think like an engineer. Break the problem into components. Analyze the data. Find the solution. But this wasn't a project timeline or a resource allocation problem. This was 12 dead people. 12 families who'd lost someone while my wife whispered encouragement into their ears, building trust just to hand them over to her lover for harvesting. The emails I'd read made my skin crawl. Vanessa's messages to Garrett were clinical, detached. She'd rate the callers like prospects in a sales pipeline. High potential, owns condo, no family contact in 6 months, severe depression. Possible, has savings but mentioned a sister might be risky. No go, too connected, parents call weekly. One email from 3 months ago stood out. G. The one from last Tuesday, Michael T. went through with it. Confirmed via obituary in Bend Bulletin. No service planned, estate goes to probate. Window should be clean for at least 60 days. His checking showed $12K last time he mentioned it. Credit cards were maxed, but savings untouched. I'm sending you his details now. We need to be more careful about the timing. Space them out more. 2 in 1 month looks like a pattern. Garrett's response. You're right. Let's aim for one every 6 to 8 weeks. Quality over quantity. You're amazing at this, by the way. Most people couldn't compartmentalize like you do. I'd thrown up in my office trash can after reading that one. Now I sat with my laptop, an external hard drive, and a decision that would detonate my children's lives. If I went to the police, Vanessa would go to prison. Murder charges, probably. Conspiracy. Fraud. The prosecutor would bury her. Emma and Tyler would grow up visiting their mother in a correctional facility, trying to understand why mommy helped people die. If I didn't go to the police, 12 families would never get justice, and Vanessa and Garrett would keep doing it. The spreadsheet showed they'd made over $240,000 in 14 months. That kind of money became addictive. They wouldn't stop. I pulled up a new browser window and searched for legal obligation to report crime. The results were muddier than I'd hoped. Oregon law required certain professionals to report specific crimes, but private citizens had more discretion. I wasn't legally obligated to turn in my wife. Morally, though, that was different. I started copying files to the external hard drive. Everything. The scanned documents, the emails, the financial spreadsheets, the victim profiles Vanessa had compiled. The drive showed 2.3 gigabytes transferring. I labeled it Insurance Backup 2024 and hid it in my desk drawer behind old tax returns. Then I created a second copy on a thumb drive that I'd keep with me. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother, Jason, in Denver. You up? Saw you active on Words with Friends at 4 a.m. Everything okay? I stared at the message. Jason was a defense attorney. He'd know what to do with this. But telling him meant expanding the circle, pulling another person into this nightmare. Couldn't sleep? Work stress? I'm fine. His response came quickly. Liar, call me later. Seriously. I set the phone down and looked at the laptop screen again. Vanessa's email was still open, her inbox showing 847 unread messages. I scrolled through recent ones. Most were work-related. Marketing campaigns, budget approvals, team meetings. Then I found another folder I'd missed before. HL notes. I clicked it open. Inside were Word documents, each named with initials and dates. I opened one at random. RT 09-15-23, DocX. Session notes. Rachel T. 34, Portland. Third call this week. She's escalating. Mentioned stockpiling pills again. Husband left 6 months ago, took the kids. Supervised visitation only because of her episodes. She feels like a failure as a mother. Building rapport. Shared my own story about feeling inadequate. Modified version, obviously. She responded well. Trust me now. Asked if I'd be available tomorrow night if she needed to talk. Financial check. Owns half of marital home, equity 180K. Settlement gave her 50K cash, retirement account 35K. Husband has primary custody, so minimal ongoing expenses. No close family in state. Assessment. Prime. Isolated, assets accessible, timeline flexible, transferring to G. On next call. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not metaphorically this time, but an actual physical sensation like a rib separating from cartilage. This wasn't just 12 people. The folder contained 47 documents. 47 people Vanessa had evaluated like livestock. I opened another file, then another. Not all of them had gone through with it. Some were marked declined or reconnected multifamily or transferred to standard services. But the ones marked complete numbered 15, not 12. 3 more than the financial spreadsheet showed. I searched for those 3 names in the email archive. Found them quickly. Garrett's messages explained. Not enough assets to justify risk. Account already frozen by family. Timing too close to last one, aborted. They'd encouraged 3 people to kill themselves and hadn't even bothered to steal from them afterward. The deaths were just practice, refinement of technique. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. I saved everything to both drives, then cleared my browser history out of habit. Closed the laptop. The house was still silent. Vanessa sleeping upstairs in our bed, her auburn hair spread across the pillow, her face peaceful. In a few hours, she'd wake up, shower, put on her professional clothes, kiss the kids goodbye, and head to her office where she'd plan marketing campaigns and facilitate murders. I walked to the kitchen and started coffee. The familiar ritual helped. Measure the grounds, pour the water, press the button. Wait. My phone showed 5:47 a.m. I had about an hour before Vanessa woke up, maybe 90 minutes before the kids stirred. I pulled up my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 3 years. Robert Fletcher. We'd worked together at my previous firm before he left to join the FBI's white-collar crime division in Seattle. We'd stayed in touch for a while, then drifted apart the way work friends do. I stared at his name for a long moment. Calling the police meant local jurisdiction, patrol officers, detectives who might or might not understand the scope of what I'd found. Calling Robert meant federal involvement, resources, experience with complex fraud cases. It also meant I couldn't take it back. I pressed the call button before I could change my mind. The phone rang 4 times. I was about to hang up when a groggy voice answered. Fletcher. Robert, it's David Preston, from Portland. I'm sorry to call so early, but I need help. A pause. I heard rustling, probably him sitting up in bed. David? Yeah, of course. What's going on? I found evidence of multiple murders, financial fraud, identity theft. It's my wife and her... I couldn't say lover. The word stuck in my throat. Her accomplice. They've been using a crisis hotline to target suicidal people, then stealing their identities after they die. Silence on the other end. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Robert? I'm here. David, I need you to slow down and tell me exactly what you found. Don't leave anything out. So I did. I told him about discovering the affair, about the laptop, about the folders and emails and spreadsheets, about 47 evaluated victims and 15 confirmed deaths, about Vanessa's clinical notes rating people's vulnerability and asset levels. I told him everything while the coffee maker gurgled and the sky outside started turning gray with approaching dawn. When I finished, Robert was quiet for another moment. Then, "Are you safe right now? Is she in the house?" "She's asleep upstairs. Doesn't know I found any of this." "Okay, listen carefully. Don't confront her. Don't let her know you've discovered this. Can you get the evidence somewhere secure?" "I already copied everything to 2 drives." "Good. I'm going to make some calls. This is going to move fast once it starts. Federal and state jurisdiction, multiple agencies. You need to be prepared for that. Your kids? I know. I'll call you back within the hour. Don't do anything until then. And David? You did the right thing calling me." I wasn't sure about that, but I said, "Thanks," and ended the call. The coffee was ready. I poured a cup and stood at the kitchen window, watching the streetlights blink off one by one as dawn approached. Upstairs, I heard the shower turn on. Vanessa was awake. The line rang 4 times before Robert's voice came through, rough with sleep. "This is Fletcher." "Robert, it's David Preston." I kept my voice low, still standing in my office with the door closed. "I need to report something. Multiple homicides and identity theft." A pause. The sound of rustling, a lamp clicking on. "David, it's..." I heard him check something. "It's 3:30 in the morning." "I know, I'm sorry, but this can't wait." His tone shifted, professional now. "Talk to me." I laid it out as clearly as I could manage. The affair discovery, the laptop, the files, the crisis hotline, the spreadsheet with 47 names and detailed financial profiles, the 12 to 15 confirmed deaths, the $240,000 in stolen assets. Jesus Christ, Robert's voice had gone completely flat, the way people sound when they're processing something too big to react to emotionally. "You're telling me your wife has been murdering people through a suicide prevention hotline?" "Her and her boyfriend, Garrett Walsh. He handles the identity theft side." "And you have documentation of all this?" "Copied to 3 separate drives. Chat logs where they discuss specific victims, financial records, the evaluation spreadsheet, everything." Another pause. I heard him moving, footsteps on hardwood. "Where are you right now?" "Home, my office. She's upstairs sleeping. The kids are in their rooms." "David, listen to me very carefully. Do not confront her. Do not let her know you found this. Can you maintain normal behavior until we can get there?" I thought about Vanessa upstairs, sleeping peacefully while 12 people rotted in graves because she'd convinced them the world would be better without them, while their families grieved, not knowing someone had deliberately pushed their loved ones over the edge. "Yes," I said. "I can do that." "Good. I'm going to make some calls. This crosses into violent crimes territory and we'll need to coordinate with Portland PD. The crisis center is local, right?" "Helpline Northwest. She volunteers there 2 nights a week." "Okay. We're going to need to move fast before anyone destroys evidence. I'm going to have agents at your house by 7 a.m. That work?" I checked my watch. 3 hours and change. The kids wake up around 6:30. They have school. We'll work around that. Can you get them out of the house, maybe have them stay with someone? My mind raced through options. Vanessa's parents lived in Beaverton, but I couldn't exactly call them at 3 in the morning to arrange a playdate. My sister was in San Francisco. I can probably get my neighbor to take them to school. Tell her we have an emergency. Do that. And David? I know this is your wife. I know you have kids together. But what you're describing, if it's accurate, she's a serial killer. You understand that? I understand. People are going to ask why you didn't call 911 immediately, why you waited, why you called me instead of local police. Because I wanted to make sure this was handled right. that the evidence was preserved properly, that whoever investigates this understands the scope. Smart, but it's going to be a question. He paused. How are you holding up? The concern in his voice almost broke something in me. I pressed my palm against the desk, focusing on the solid wood grain. I'm functional. That's all you need to be right now. Get some coffee. Pull together any physical evidence you can find. Documents, anything she might have brought home. Don't touch her laptop or phone. We'll need those in their current state. Understood. I'll call you back within the hour with a concrete plan. You going to be okay until then? Yeah. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my office, listening to the house settle around me. Somewhere above me, Vanessa was sleeping. In a few hours, she'd wake up, shower, get dressed. Make breakfast for the kids, maybe. Ask me about my day. Play the role of normal wife and mother while knowing she'd spent yesterday evening evaluating whether a depressed accountant in Gresham had enough liquid assets to be worth killing. I pulled up the spreadsheet again, forcing myself to look at the names, to see them as people instead of data points. Michael Torres, 34, divorced, no kids. $47,000 in savings. Depression, anxiety. Status, completed 315, amount recovered, 31,200. Jennifer Blake, 29, single, estranged from family. $89,000, including small inheritance. Bipolar disorder. Status, completed 522, amount recovered, 6,400. Robert Kim, 51, widower, adult children not in contact, $156,000 in retirement accounts. PTSD, chronic pain. Status, completed 7-8, amount recovered, $103,000. Each one had a story. Had people who'd loved them once, even if those connections had frayed. Had dreams that hadn't worked out. Pain they couldn't escape. Moments of joy that hadn't been enough to outweigh the darkness. And Vanessa had taken those moments of vulnerability when they'd reached out for help and turned them into weapons. I thought about the training she must have gone through at Helpline Northwest. Crisis intervention techniques, de-escalation, building rapport, all the tools designed to save lives, repurposed to end them. My phone buzzed. A text from Robert. Talk to SAC, coordinating with PPB and Crisis Center Board. Need you to send me one of those evidence copies ASAP, encrypted. You have secure file transfer? I did. Set up a secure upload and started transferring one of the backup drives to Robert's FBI server. 14 months of murder, packaged in a 3.2 gigabyte folder. While it uploaded, I went through Vanessa's desk drawers more carefully. Found a burner phone in the back of the bottom drawer, hidden under old tax returns. Powered it on. The only contacts were saved as initials. GW had to be Garrett. The texts were brief, coded. Package delivered, from 3 weeks ago. New prospect looks promising from last Tuesday. Meeting Thursday as planned. I photographed each message with my own phone, then powered the burner down and put it back exactly where I'd found it. The upload finished. I sent Robert a text confirming, then sat back in my chair and tried to figure out how I was going to get through the next 3 hours. Upstairs, I heard water running. My heart stopped. Footsteps in the hallway. The bathroom door closing. I checked my watch. 4:17 a.m. Vanessa never got up this early unless she had an early meeting or flight. I pulled up her calendar on my phone. We shared family calendars, another piece of normal married life that felt obscene now. Nothing scheduled until 10 a.m. The toilet flushed. Water ran in the sink. I waited, barely breathing, for her to go back to bed. Instead, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Coming down. I quickly closed all the incriminating windows on my computer, pulled up a work email I'd been drafting yesterday. Try to look like someone who'd just woken up early and decided to get a jump on the day. The office door opened. Vanessa stood in the doorway in her pajamas, hair mussed from sleep. For a moment, she just looked at me, and I wondered if somehow she knew, if she could see it on my face. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd get some work done." I gestured at the screen. "Budget review for the Cascade project." She nodded slowly, but didn't move from the doorway. "I heard you on the phone earlier." My blood turned to ice. "Work thing. Sorry if I woke you." "At 4 in the morning?" "Client in Tokyo, time zones." The lie came easily, which disturbed me. But I'd been married to a serial killer for 8 years without noticing. Apparently, we'd both gotten good at deception. She studied me for another moment, then seemed to accept it. "I'm going to make coffee. Want some?" "Sure, thanks." She turned to go, then paused. "David, about yesterday, about Garrett." I meant what I said. I want to try to fix this, fix us. I looked at my wife, the mother of my children, the woman I'd loved for a decade, the monster who'd convinced 12 people to kill themselves for profit, and managed to keep my voice steady. "We'll talk about it later, after I get through this work crisis." She smiled, small and tentative. "Okay." Then she was gone, padding toward the kitchen in her bare feet. I checked my phone. 4:23 a.m. 2 hours and 37 minutes until the FBI arrived. I just had to keep pretending everything was normal until then. The coffee maker gurgled downstairs. I heard Vanessa moving around the kitchen, the familiar sounds of her morning routine, cabinet doors opening and closing, the clink of a spoon against ceramic. Every sound felt like a countdown timer. 5:47 a.m. An hour and 13 minutes until the FBI arrived. I needed to go downstairs. Staying up here would raise questions. The David Preston who'd gone to bed last night would wake up, check his phone, maybe shower, and join his wife for coffee before getting the kids ready for school. Normal Tuesday morning. Just another day. My hands were steadier now. The initial shock had crystallized into something else, a kind of hyper-awareness where every decision mattered. I'd spent 15 years managing complex projects, coordinating teams, anticipating problems. This was just another timeline to manage, except instead of software launches or construction deadlines, I was managing my children's safety and my wife's arrest. I stood, my legs stiff from sitting in one position too long. The folder with printed evidence sat on my desk where I'd left it, along with the USB drive Fletcher had told me to prepare. I'd copied everything, the spreadsheets, the audio files, the session notes. 12 separate backups across different cloud services under accounts Vanessa didn't know existed. The shower would buy me time. I grabbed clean clothes from the dresser, moving quietly despite knowing Vanessa was already awake. In the bathroom, I turned the water hot and stood under the spray, letting it beat against my shoulders while my mind raced through scenarios. Vanessa knew something was off. That moment when she'd woken, her eyes finding me in the darkness, she'd known I wasn't asleep. And my explanation about the work call had been weak. Too vague. She'd accepted it, but that didn't mean she believed it. I needed to be better. More convincing. The engineering side of my brain started cataloging details. What would normal David do this morning? He'd be tired from the early wake-up. Maybe slightly irritable. He'd drink his coffee black because they were out of cream. I'd noticed the empty container in the recycling yesterday. He'd check his phone periodically, distracted by the supposed work crisis. I could work with that. Give her a David who was preoccupied but not suspicious, stressed about work, not about her. When I came downstairs at 6:04, Vanessa was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, still in her robe. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, and she had that slight crease between her eyebrows that meant she was concentrating. "Coffee's fresh," she said without looking up. "Thanks." I poured a cup, took a sip, grimaced slightly. "We're out of cream." "I know, it's on the list." She glanced at me then, her expression unreadable. "How's the work thing?" "Still developing." I kept my voice neutral, slightly annoyed. "Might need to head in early." The team in Singapore found some discrepancies in the load calculations. The lie came easily. We'd actually had that exact problem 3 months ago, and I'd spent a week on calls with the Singapore office fixing it. Vanessa had heard me complain about it enough times that the reference would sound authentic. On a Tuesday, she closed her laptop. "I thought Tuesdays were your admin days." My stomach tightened. She was right. Tuesdays I typically worked from home, handling paperwork and team meetings. It was part of our routine, had been for 2 years. Usually, yeah. I took another sip of coffee, buying seconds. But if the calculations are wrong, the whole timeline shifts. Better to deal with it now than have it blow up next week. She nodded slowly. "What time do you think you'll leave?" "Maybe 7:30? I want to see the kids before I go." "They'll like that." She stood, moving to the counter to refill her own cup. With her back to me, she said, "You seemed restless last night. Everything okay?" The question hung in the air. I watched her shoulders, the careful casualness of her posture. "Just the work stuff. You know how my brain gets when there's a problem." I set my cup down, pulled out my phone like I was checking messages. "Plus, I think I'm fighting off a cold. Couldn't get comfortable." She turned around, leaning against the counter. Her eyes studied my face. "You should take some vitamin C." "Yeah, probably." We stood there in our kitchen, in the house we'd renovated together, drinking coffee like we had 1,000 mornings before. Except this time, I knew what she was. What she'd done. 12 people, minimum. 12 human beings who'd reached out for help in their darkest moments, and she'd guided them toward death while cataloging their assets like inventory. I thought about the audio file I'd listened to, the one where a man named Thomas had called, crying, saying he couldn't do it anymore. And Vanessa's voice, so gentle, so understanding. Sometimes the pain is just too much. Sometimes the only peace is in letting go. Not, "Please hold on." Not, "Let's find you help." Just permission. Encouragement wrapped in empathy. "David?" I realized I'd been staring at nothing, my jaw clenched. "Sorry," I shook my head. Spaced out, definitely fighting something off. "Go sit down. I'll make you some eggs." "I'm not really hungry." "You need to eat." She was already pulling the pan from the cabinet, cracking eggs into a bowl. "Especially if you're getting sick." I wanted to scream at her, to demand how she could stand there making breakfast, playing the concerned wife, when she had recordings of dying people hidden on her laptop. When she'd spent last night sleeping peacefully next to me after spending her evening counseling someone who might be dead by morning. Instead, I sat at the table and watched her cook. 6:23 a.m. My phone buzzed. A text from Fletcher. "Status?" I typed back, "Maintaining. No issues." His response came immediately. "Team staging at 6:45. Warrant signed. Stay calm." Vanessa slid a plate of scrambled eggs in front of me. "Eat." I picked up my fork. The eggs tasted like cardboard, but I forced them down while Vanessa returned to her laptop. I could see her screen from where I sat, email, nothing suspicious. She was typing a response to someone about a marketing campaign, her fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. Those same fingers had typed session notes, rating suicidal people by their asset potential, had created spreadsheets tracking their deaths. Mom? We both turned. Emma stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her blonde hair tangled from sleep. Hey, sweetheart. Vanessa's voice shifted instantly, filling with warmth. You're up early. I heard voices. Emma padded over to me, climbing into my lap. Hi, Daddy. I wrapped my arms around her, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Hi, baby girl. Are you sick? Mom said you're sick. Just a little cold. Nothing serious. She pressed her hand against my forehead like she'd seen Vanessa do to her countless times. You don't feel hot? That's good news then. I kissed the top of her head, my throat tight. In an hour, FBI agents would arrive at our door. They'd arrest Vanessa, probably right here in the kitchen. Emma would see it. She'd see her mother handcuffed, led away. She'd hear the words murder and fraud, and her 6-year-old brain would try to make sense of it. And there was nothing I could do to prevent that trauma. No way to protect her from what was coming. Can I have chocolate chip pancakes? Emma asked. Not today, honey. Vanessa stood, moving toward us. It's a school day. How about cereal? But Daddy's home. He's always home on Tuesdays. I know, but I have to go into the office early today. I met Vanessa's eyes over Emma's head. Big problem at work. Will you be home for dinner? I don't know yet, sweetheart. Maybe. Maybe I'd be at the FBI field office giving a formal statement. Maybe I'd be talking to lawyers about custody and protection orders. Maybe I'd be figuring out how to tell my children that their mother was a serial killer. I'll make spaghetti, Vanessa said. Your favorite. Emma brightened. With the good meatballs? With the good meatballs. 6:38 a.m., 22 minutes. The doorbell rang at 6:58 a.m. I was standing at the kitchen sink, rinsing Emma's cereal bowl, when the sound cut through the morning quiet. My hands stopped moving. Water continued running over the bowl, splashing against the stainless steel. Vanessa looked up from her phone. Who would be here this early? I'll get it. My voice sounded normal. 8 years of marriage had taught me how to hide things too. I dried my hands on the dish towel, each movement deliberate. Emma was upstairs brushing her teeth. Tyler was still in his pajamas, building something with blocks in the living room. I'd positioned him there deliberately, away from the front door, where he wouldn't see everything at once. Through the frosted glass panel, I could make out 3 figures. Maybe 4. I opened the door. Robert Fletcher stood on my porch in a dark suit, his FBI credentials already in his hand. 2 Portland PD detectives flanked him. A woman in her 40s with pulled-back blonde hair and a younger man with a military bearing. Behind them, 2 more agents waited on the walkway. David? Robert's voice was professional, careful. This is Detective Lauren Mitchell and Detective James Pruitt with Portland PD. Come in, I stepped back. They entered quietly, efficiently. Detective Mitchell's eyes swept the living room, cataloging details. Tyler looked up from his blocks, curious but not alarmed. Not yet. David? Vanessa appeared in the kitchen doorway, dish towel in her hands. What's going on? She looked so normal. Jeans and a cream sweater, bare feet, hair still damp from her shower. The woman who'd made pancakes for our daughter an hour ago. The woman who'd kissed my cheek before pouring her coffee. The woman who'd spent 7 months convincing vulnerable people to kill themselves. Mrs. Preston? Detective Mitchell stepped forward. I'm Detective Mitchell with the Portland Police Department. We need to speak with you. About what? Vanessa's confusion looked genuine. She glanced at me, then back to the detective. I don't understand. Ma'am, we have a warrant for your arrest. Mitchell's voice was steady, practiced. You have the right to remain silent. What? Vanessa's face went white. Arrest? For what? Anything you say can and will be used against a court of law. David? Vanessa turned to me, and for a second I saw real fear in her eyes. David, what is this? What's happening? You have the right to an attorney. This is insane. Vanessa's voice rose. I haven't done anything. David, tell them. Ma'am, I need you to turn around and place your hands behind your back. Detective Pruitt had moved closer, handcuffs ready. No. Vanessa backed toward the kitchen. No, this is a mistake. David. Tyler started crying. The sound cut through everything else, high, frightened, confused. I moved toward him, but one of the FBI agents was already there, gently steering him away from the scene. Mommy? Emma's voice came from the stairs. She stood on the landing in her school uniform, toothbrush still in her hand. Daddy, why are there police here? Emma, go back upstairs. My throat felt like I'd swallowed glass. Right now. But Mommy, now, Emma? She ran. I heard her bedroom door slam. Mrs. Preston, don't make this harder. Mitchell's hand was on her weapon now, not drawing it, just ready. Turn around, hands behind your back. Vanessa looked at me, really looked at me. And something shifted in her face, the fear giving way to calculation, then to understanding. You knew, she said quietly. This morning. You already knew. I didn't answer. How long? Her voice had changed. Colder. The mask finally slipping. How long have you known? Ma'am, Pruitt stepped forward. Since yesterday. The words came out flat. Since 4:30 a.m. yesterday. Vanessa laughed. Actually laughed. A short, bitter sound. And you sat there. You ate breakfast with me. You... She shook her head. Jesus, I underestimated you. Turn around, Mrs. Preston. Mitchell's voice had hardened. Last warning. Vanessa turned. Slowly, deliberately, she placed her hands behind her back. Pruitt moved in with the handcuffs, and the metallic click seemed impossibly loud. Vanessa Preston, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, identity theft, wire fraud, and abuse of a position of trust. Mitchell's voice was steady, reciting charges like a grocery list. Additional charges are pending. They walked her toward the door. She didn't resist, didn't cry, didn't look back at Tyler still sobbing in the FBI agent's arms. She looked at me instead. The kids, she said. David, the kids. We'll never see you again if I have anything to say about it. Something flickered across her face. Hurt? Anger? It was gone too fast to read. There's a second team heading to Vertex Solutions right now, Robert said quietly as they reached the door. Garrett Walsh will be in custody within the hour. Vanessa's head turned sharply. Garrett has nothing to do with this. We have the emails, Mrs. Preston. Robert's voice was gentle, almost pitying. We have the spreadsheets, the recordings, all of it. He was just... She stopped herself, pressed her lips together. Just what? Mitchell asked. Just helping you steal from dead people? Just posing as a crisis counselor to collect their information? Vanessa said nothing. They took her out. Through my front door, down my porch steps, across my lawn that I'd mowed 3 days ago. Neighbors were starting to emerge. Mrs. Robinson from next door, the Williamson family across the street. Phones were already out, recording. The police car door closed. Vanessa sat in the back seat, hands cuffed behind her, staring straight ahead. Not crying. Not struggling. Just empty. "Daddy?" Tyler's voice was small, broken. "Where are they taking Mommy?" I picked him up. He was getting too big for this, but I held him anyway, feeling him shake against my chest. "Mommy has to go away for a while, buddy." "Why?" "Because she did some bad things." "What bad things?" I had no answer. What do you tell a 4-year-old? How do you explain that his mother is a monster? "Mr. Preston." Robert touched my shoulder. "We need to take the laptop and any other devices. The warrant covers all electronic equipment and documents." "It's in my office. Everything's there. I haven't touched anything since we talked." 2 agents headed upstairs. I heard Emma's door open, heard her crying, heard the gentle murmur of voices as someone tried to comfort her. "We'll need you to come down to the station later today," Detective Mitchell said. "Full statement, timeline, everything you found and when you found it." I have it written down. Times, dates, what I accessed and when. She almost smiled. "Robert said you were thorough." "I'm a project manager. It's what I do." The police car pulled away. I watched through the window, Tyler still in my arms, as it disappeared around the corner. Taking Vanessa away from this house, this life, these children who would never understand what she'd done. "Mr. Preston." One of the FBI agents came down the stairs carrying Vanessa's laptop in an evidence bag. "We're also taking the desktop from the office, the tablet from the bedroom, and both cell phones we found. There's a backup drive in the desk drawer, bottom left. It has copies of everything." "You made backups?" "At 5:30 a.m. yesterday, before I called Robert." The agent nodded, impressed despite himself. "We'll get it." They worked efficiently, professionally. Boxing evidence, photographing rooms, documenting everything. My home became a crime scene, my marriage became a case file, my wife became a suspect. Emma came downstairs eventually, red-eyed and silent. She sat on the couch next to me, not speaking, just pressed against my side while Tyler dozed fitfully in my lap. The 3 of us, watching strangers catalog our life. "How many?" I asked Robert quietly. "How many people did she actually kill?" He hesitated. "We're still working through the files, but based on what you found, at least 12 confirmed suicides that we can directly link to her counseling sessions, maybe 15. "And the others? The other 30-some people in those files?" "We're checking. Some are still alive. Some died of other causes. Some—" He trailed off. "We may never know for sure. Suicide investigations are complex. Proving someone encouraged it is even harder." "But you can prove it? With what I found?" "The recordings help. The emails between her and Walsh discussing specific targets, rating their vulnerability, planning the timeline, that's conspiracy. The identity theft and fraud are solid. The murder charges—" He rubbed his face. "Those will be harder. But yes, we can prove it." The last agent left at 8:47 a.m., 2 hours and 49 minutes after they'd arrived. The house felt hollow, violated. Evidence tape across my office door. Empty spaces where computers had been. The coffee pot still on from breakfast, burning the last inch of coffee to bitter sludge. I turned it off. My phone buzzed. A text from my boss. "Saw the news. Take all the time you need." The news. Jesus, I hadn't even thought about that. I pulled up a local news site. The headline was already there. "Crisis Hotline. Volunteer arrested in identity theft scheme." They didn't have the full story yet. They would soon. Emma looked up at me. "Is Mommy coming back?" I pulled her closer. "No, sweetheart. Not for a long time. Did she really do bad things? Yes. To who? To people who needed help, people who were sad and scared. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's really bad. Yes, it is. Tyler stirred in my lap, waking up. I'm hungry. Somehow, impossibly, life continued. I made toast. I turned on cartoons. I called the school and told them Emma wouldn't be in today. I didn't explain why. They'd know soon enough. At 10:15 a.m., Robert called. Walsh is in custody. Tried to run when agents showed up at his apartment. They caught him in the parking garage. Did he say anything? Lawyer, immediately. But we don't need his confession. The evidence speaks for itself. I hung up. Sat on my couch between my children, watching animated characters solve problems with friendship and teamwork, while my wife sat in a cell downtown and the man she'd been sleeping with sat in another. The woman I'd loved for 8 years. The mother of my children. A serial killer who'd weaponized compassion. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Preston, this is Amanda Cross with the Oregonian. I'd like to speak with you about... I blocked the number. There would be more. So many more. But right now, in this moment, there was just this. My daughter pressed against my left side, my son against my right, and the hollow knowledge that I'd saved strangers I'd never meet by destroying the only family I'd ever known. Emma's hand found mine. Daddy, are we going to be okay? I looked down at her. 6 years old, gap-toothed, wearing her school uniform because I'd told her to get dressed this morning before her world ended. Yeah, sweetheart, I lied. We're going to be okay. The courthouse steps were cold even through my suit pants. February in Portland, 50 degrees and drizzling, the kind of weather that seeps into your bones. I sat there for 20 minutes after the verdict, watching people hurry past with umbrellas, living their normal lives. Inside, they'd just sentenced Vanessa to 43 years without possibility of parole. Garrett got 37. His lawyer had argued he was manipulated, that Vanessa was the mastermind. The jury didn't buy it. The emails showed they were partners, equal and eager. 18 confirmed victims. Not 12, not 15. 18 people whose families got to sit in that courtroom and hear how my wife had turned their loved ones' final moments into profit margins. How she'd rated their vulnerability, cataloged their assets, guided them toward death with a counselor's gentle voice. The trial lasted 6 weeks. I testified for 3 days. Emma and Tyler stayed with my mother in Seattle, shielded from the media circus. The recordings played in open court. Vanessa's voice, warm and understanding, telling a 34-year-old veteran that sometimes the bravest thing is letting go. Telling a widowed teacher that her pain was valid, that she'd earned her peace. Each one ending the same way. A transfer to a specialist who can help you more, and Garrett's voice taking over, collecting the information he'd need. The prosecution called it harvesting the vulnerable. The defense called it a tragic misunderstanding of therapeutic boundaries. The jury called it murder. I watched Vanessa's face when they read the verdict. She didn't cry, didn't react, just stood there in her orange jumpsuit, hands clasped in front of her, and nodded once. Like she was accepting a meeting invitation. She'd written me letters from jail. 43 of them over the past 14 months. I burned them all without reading them. Whatever she had to say, I didn't need to hear it. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. It's done. Custody hearing next week is just a formality now. I'd filed for divorce the day after her arrest. Emergency custody order granted immediately. The family court judge had looked at me with something like pity and said, "Mr. Preston, I don't think you'll have any trouble maintaining sole custody." No, I wouldn't. Emma was in therapy twice a week. She'd stopped asking about her mother after the first month, but she had nightmares. Drew pictures of people falling, of phones ringing in the dark, of her mother with empty eyes. Her therapist said it would take years, maybe a lifetime. Tyler was too young to fully understand, which was both a mercy and a curse. He knew Mommy did bad things and went away. He'd probably need the full explanation eventually. I wasn't looking forward to that conversation. I stood up, my legs stiff from sitting. Across the street, a news van was packing up equipment. The reporters had gotten their footage, me walking out of the courthouse, stone-faced and silent. They'd stopped shouting questions after the first week. I never answered anyway. My phone rang. My mother. "David, did they?" "43 years," I said. "She'll be 72 when she gets out, if she lives that long." A long exhale. "How are you?" "I'm okay." That's not what I asked. I watched the rain darken the courthouse steps, each drop leaving its small mark. "I don't know, Mom. I really don't know." "Come get the kids. Come home." Home. The house in Laurelhurst was on the market. I couldn't live there anymore. Couldn't walk through rooms where Vanessa had planned murders while I slept upstairs. We'd gotten an offer last week, below asking, but I didn't care. I just wanted it gone. "I'll be there in 3 hours. Drive safe." I hung up and started walking toward the parking garage. A woman stepped into my path, mid-50s, gray hair, eyes red from crying. I recognized her from the courtroom. Mother of victim number 7, Rachel Torres, the divorced woman who'd felt like a failure. "Mr. Preston," her voice shook. "I just wanted to say thank you for coming forward, for stopping them." I didn't feel like I deserved thanks. I felt like I should have known. Should have seen what Vanessa was. Should have protected those 18 people by being less blind, less trusting, less stupidly in love with a monster. "I'm sorry for your loss," I managed. "My Rachel. She was sick. She needed help. And your wife." She couldn't finish. Didn't need to. "I know." She nodded and walked away, shoulders shaking. I made it to my car before the weight of it hit me fully. Sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the wheel, not moving, just breathing. 18 people. 18 families destroyed because I'd married someone I didn't really know. Because I'd been too focused on project timelines and mortgage payments to notice my wife was a predator, the rational part of my brain knew that wasn't fair. Knew that Vanessa had fooled everyone, her co-workers, her friends, the crisis center supervisors who'd praised her dedication. Knew that sociopaths are good at hiding. That's what makes them dangerous. But the rest of me couldn't shake the feeling that I should have known. My phone buzzed again. A text from Emma sent from my mother's phone. "When are you coming home, Daddy? Tyler says you're bringing ice cream." I smiled despite everything. I'm coming now. And yes, ice cream. Chocolate chip? Chocolate chip. I started the car and pulled out of the parking garage, leaving the courthouse behind. The news vans, the grieving families, the prosecutors who'd spent 6 weeks proving my wife was a serial killer. All of it fading in the rearview mirror. The drive to Seattle took 3.5 hours. I stopped once, at a rest area outside Olympia, and stood in the rain for 10 minutes. Let it soak through my coat, my shirt, my skin. Let it wash away nothing because nothing could be washed away. This was permanent. 18 people dead. 2 children traumatized. A life completely destroyed and rebuilt from rubble. But when I got to my mother's house and Tyler ran out to meet me, shrieking about ice cream and showing me a drawing of a dinosaur, I picked him up and held him tight. When Emma emerged more slowly, cautious now in ways she'd never been before, I pulled her in too. The three of us standing in my mother's driveway, holding each other while the rain fell. "Did the judge make Mommy stay in jail?" Emma asked quietly. "Yes, sweetheart, for a very long time." "Good." Her voice was fierce, angry in a way that broke my heart. "She hurt people." "She did. Are we safe now?" I thought about that question, about what safety meant. We'd never be safe from the knowledge of what Vanessa had done. Never be safe from the news stories that would follow us, the whispers when people recognized our name. Emma and Tyler would grow up as the children of a serial killer. That would shape them in ways I couldn't predict or prevent. But we were safe from her. From her lies, her manipulation, her complete absence of conscience. "Yeah," I said. "We're safe now." That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat with my mother in her kitchen. She made tea, the ritual we'd had since I was a teenager. Her solution to everything from breakups to job stress to the complete implosion of my life. "You did the right thing," she said. "Calling the FBI, testifying, all of it. Doesn't feel right." It wouldn't. But those families, they have answers now. Closure, justice, because of you. I wrapped my hands around the mug, letting the heat seep in. I keep thinking about the ones I didn't save, the 18 who died before I found out. If I'd been more aware, more present. "Stop." Her voice was sharp. "You are not responsible for what she did. You're a victim too, David. You and those babies upstairs." I married her. I trusted her. I gave her the perfect cover. Stable family man, normal life, no one would suspect. She would have done it anyway, with or without you. People like that, they find a way. Maybe. Probably. But I'd never know for sure. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving everything clean and dark. "What are you going to do now?" my mother asked. I'd thought about this. During the trial, during the sleepless nights, during the hours of testimony where I'd had to relive discovering what Vanessa was. Move. Somewhere smaller, quieter. Change our names legally. The lawyer says we can do that given the circumstances. Start over. And work? My firm's been good about it. I can work remotely. They understand. And dating? She gave me a look. Eventually? I almost laughed. I married a serial killer, Mom. I think I'm done with my judgment on character. You didn't know. I should have. No. She reached across the table, grabbed my hand. You loved her. You trusted her. That's not a weakness. That's being human. But being human had cost 18 people their lives. I finished my tea and went upstairs to check on the kids. Emma was sprawled across the bed, covers kicked off, looking peaceful for the first time in months. Tyler was curled around his stuffed elephant, thumb in his mouth even though we'd been trying to break that habit. I stood in the doorway and watched them breathe. These two small people who would carry Vanessa's legacy whether they wanted to or not. Who would someday Google their mother's name and find the news stories, the trial transcripts, the true crime podcast that would inevitably dissect our family. But they would also carry my legacy, and I could choose what that meant. I could teach them that evil sometimes wears a familiar face. That trust should be earned, not freely given. That the world is darker than we want to believe. Or I could teach them that one person's betrayal doesn't define everyone else. That love is still worth the risk. That even when everything falls apart, you rebuild. You keep going. You protect the people who matter. I didn't know which lesson was right. Maybe both. Maybe neither. But standing there in the darkness, listening to my children sleep, I made a choice. I would not let Vanessa's evil be the only thing they learned from this. I would not let her destroy them the way she'd destroyed 18 strangers. They would know what she did. I wouldn't lie to them. But they would also know that when I found out, I stopped her. That when faced with the choice between protecting a lie and protecting the truth, I chose truth. Even when it cost me everything. That had to count for something. Downstairs, my phone buzzed. Another message from a reporter, probably, or a lawyer, or one of the victims' families. I'd answer tomorrow. Tonight, I just wanted to stand here and watch my kids sleep and pretend for a few more hours that the world was simple. The rain started again, soft against the windows. I pulled Emma's blanket back over her, tucked Tyler's elephant closer, kissed them both on the forehead. Then I went to the guest room and tried to sleep, knowing I probably wouldn't. Knowing that tomorrow I'd wake up and it would still be real. Vanessa would still be in prison. 18 people would still be dead. My life would still be shattered. But my children would be safe. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered. 3 years later, I stood in a different kitchen in a different city, making pancakes for Emma's 9th birthday. Tyler sat at the table, coloring a card he'd made, crooked letters spelling out "Happy Birthday" in purple crayon. We'd moved to Asheville, North Carolina, changed our last name to Mitchell, started over. Emma didn't have nightmares anymore. Tyler barely remembered Portland. They were healing, slowly, in the way children do. I was healing too. Or learning to live with the scars, which might be the same thing. I'd learned something through all of this, something I wished I'd understood earlier. You can't always see the darkness in people. Sometimes it hides behind love, behind normalcy, behind the face you wake up to every morning. And when you finally see it, when the mask slips and the truth emerges, you have two choices. You can let it destroy you. Let the betrayal and the guilt and the horror consume everything good that remains. Or you can choose to keep going, to protect what matters, to build something new from the rubble. I chose to keep going, not because I was strong or brave or healed, but because 2 kids needed a father who showed up, who made pancakes on birthdays, who proved that one person's evil doesn't poison everything it touches. Vanessa took 18 lives. She tried to take mine too, in a different way. I didn't let her. And every morning that I wake up and make breakfast for my kids, every time Emma laughs at something silly or Tyler shows me a drawing, every moment of ordinary happiness we manage to build, that's my revenge. She wanted to destroy. I chose to create. In the end, that's the only victory that matters.